So,
Good evening for those joining us from MENA, and good evening everyone in APAC, and good morning to you, Devin. Before I introduce Devin, thought I could set the context. Uh, Digital technologies have progressed exponentially over the last decade, and the current pandemic has accelerated the future. Senior leaders will have no option but to upskill, reskill themselves in a hurry. Cornell DBLP is customized for decision making leaders with a minimum experience of 6 years. We are already halfway through in our first DBLP cohort. The average experience of participants in the current cohort of DBLP is 19 and a half years. In the current cohort, we have participants who are from Accenture, Mashreq Bank, Etisalat, HSBC, General Motors, Swiggy, TCS, Cognizant, to name a few. In the upcoming cohort, participants join us from several geographies, including UAE, Saudi Arabia, India, Sri Lanka, Manila, Hong Kong. Just to list some of the benefits to this unique program, this is a 6 month program. There are 18 live interactive sessions. There are 1,000 plus electives. The access for these electives is for 1 year. These The program itself has got small cohort sizes for 30 to 40 participants to maximize peer learning. There are tangible takeaways in the form of reviewed peer projects. There are peer reviews. There would be two faculty reviews by Professor Alan Filipowitz and two sessions with Studio Sprint with Professor Karan Girotra. To give you a better understanding on the program, we have with us Devin Bigoness. Devin is director at Cornell and is responsible for design, development, and strategy uh, at Cornell. XCD has worked with Devin over the last 7 years, designing more than 50 plus programs. Prior to Cornell, Devin was associated with Duke CE based out of London. He's particularly interested in leadership lessons from sports. And with this interest, Devin has authored numerous articles, including the one in Forbes. Devin is based out of Cornell campus, and I always say this, Devin, it is probably one of the most beautiful campuses in the world at Ithaca, New York. Over to you, Devin.
great. Thank you so much, John. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. And as John said, I'm based in Ithaca, New York, but as you can see, my virtual background here is at Cornell Tech in New York City on Roosevelt Island, which is also a different type of beauty here overlooking the river and New York City in the background there. But it is a bit early here in Ithaca, but I know it's either your afternoon or your evening. So thank you so much for taking some time to connect and to think about this program. I'm, as John said, I'm with Cornell University, and we're incredibly proud of the connection with XCD as our partner on this program to help reach a global audience. This is a very important program in terms of the topic areas, and we appreciate you taking some time to think about it, to connect about it, to enroll in it, and obviously what it might be for you, for your career, for the network of people that you will connect to as a part of this program. And so thank you very much for taking some time. I'm going to share a few ideas over the next little while, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So we'll kind of jump into the sort of the content for this digital business leadership program that John highlighted some of the what it is. But I really wanted to start with the why. As Simon Sinek says, as you think about ideas, starting with the why. And our assumption is that you are interested in this program because you're understanding the complexity that is happening in the world today and for tomorrow. The increasing speed, the increasing volatility. There's a concept that we do a lot of work in around VUCA, which is the world is increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And you're interested in this program, your why of interested in this program is that you're wanting to stay out ahead of that ambiguity, to be better leaders in the fog, to be better equipped to drive both the engineering and technical side of your business, but also the leadership and business acumen and strategic thinking that is required to drive growth in today's ever-changing world. What you see on your screen here is another way to think about the world, and another way to navigate the why is this notion of the world is increasingly made up of strategic tensions, right? These paradoxes, these dilemmas, these tensions that increasingly we see in the world, that you need to be both of these things, not one or the other, right? You can't only lead for today. You have to be positioning the organization for tomorrow. And increasingly, as Cornell and as we work with our global group of clients and individuals, we help them to understand how to frame this complexity, how to operate in it, and how to create innovative solutions for the business that takes advantage of this balance, right? How do you, on one hand, be safe and you're a safe pair of hands for your clients, perhaps wealth if you're in financial services, their operations if you're in operations, new innovations and technologies from a privacy standpoint, but also you're pushing the envelope. You're an innovator, you're an early adopter, right? You're pushing, you're taking risks. Inherently in today's world, it's not one or the other, it's both. And so this program really helps you to have the mindsets, the skill sets, the abilities, the tools, the new knowledge, the networks to navigate this complexity. So I thought this was a core idea to start with, is this notion of the world is made up increasingly of these types of tensions. And so wanted to kind of plant that seed as we assume that this is part of your why, of why you would be interested in this type of a program as you think about that. I mentioned that I'm with Cornell University. The images you see on screen and maybe even my background is not perhaps what you think of when you think of Cornell University. You think of perhaps the Ivy League, the Ithaca sort of ivy covered walls. Almost 10 years ago now, the city of New York wanted to diversify its economy into above and beyond just financial services. Obviously, financial services is a core part of the New York City and many global economies, but they wanted to diversify their economy. And so they put out an RFP or a bid to design and develop a campus that is at the intersection point of engineering, of business, of law, and of technology, right? That sort of confluence of those four things is really at the heart of what Cornell Tech came to be. New York put out for a bid, Cornell won that bid, and so over the last 10 years has been developing a campus on Roosevelt Island. If you know your New York City geography, it's between Manhattan and Queens. But it's more than just a real estate play. It's an idea play of how do you really understand capability development for the digital age? How do you innovate more rapidly? How do you spin the experimentation wheel more quickly? And that's a key idea of what Cornell Tech is, which is vital to understand as you think about this program, of why this program would be relevant in 2021 as we head into 2022. Is that Cornell Tech is really a driver of this, right? It's one of the core ideas that Cornell is advancing in that intersection point of technology. And where I sit in the organization with Cornell External Education, that's the area across the entire university that designs and delivers education solutions for our clients on a global basis. And so it really is Cornell Tech, but it's also the Cornell S.E. Johnson College of Business. It's the Industrial Labor Relations School when we think about human capital elements of this. So it sits across the university. So Cornell Tech is an interesting way to sort of think about where some of this expertise comes from as you think about the digital and the intersection of engineering, technology, and business and leadership. So as John mentioned, in the interest of time, the specific highlights of this program, it is, as I said, driven by Cornell University. We're proud to have XCD as a partner in this, but it is a Cornell program. You will get a Cornell certificate at the end of it upon successful completion. The program is some of the core deliveries of the program is it's 18 live sessions that each have work going into it and then work after it. You will also get access to the eCornell on-demand library. So between sessions, you'll have 30, 45-minute modules done by Cornell University faculty in key areas that you can complement your content work or help you solve new problems. You will have a peer group, which I think is one of the core things that we always talk about when we design these kind of programs. It is what you learn, but it's also who you learn it with. You'll have a network now of about 35 or 40 people in your cohort. There's also people who've gone through this first cohort, which you'll also have a chance to connect to. as you think about the network of how you navigate future growth is having people you can call upon. I've done in my 15 plus years of doing custom executive education, as John said, first here at Cornell, but prior to my career at Duke Corporate Education. It really is inherently every program we deliver. At some point during the program, someone will mention, I now have someone in legal I can call, or I now have someone in IT I can call, or I now have someone in that geography I can call. And that who you can call is enormously helpful for helping you navigate the increasingly complex digital world that we all move into. We'll also have a chance to apply the knowledge in a very direct way on the capstone project. So this is, one of the core skills that we think is becoming increasingly important is your ability to be a critical thinker, to be a synthesis. Anyone who has done sort of, a lot of work in this area understands that it really is about understanding all of it, but then your ability to synthesize and present intelligent insights. And a capstone project forces you to do that. And there will be faculty feedback as you help kind of synthesize that so that you're learning. We're not just giving you the fish, but we're also teaching you to fish in that classic sort of way of thinking of the world. A digital readiness assessment, there's a gaming experience, and at the end of it, you will get a Cornell University certificate that you can promote on social media for internal purposes as well as external purposes as well. So that's sort of the highlights of the DBLP as we sort of everything is, of course, gets abbreviated as an acronym. So the core ideas, which I've already started to mention as you think about this program, is we're trying to get you to do three really core basic things that have a lot of advanced ideas to them as you think about them just as concepts. We're trying to get you to be able to think differently, right? It says here, frame the challenges in a digital world. So it really is that notion we started this conversation with around operating in ambiguity, operating in challenging dilemmas or paradoxes. So we want you to be able to think differently. That's the first step. Then you have critical insights and ideas coming out of it. So we want you to be able to apply them, right? The part of this program is that technology is moving so fast. If you are not constantly staying out ahead of where the world is going, you're not going to be able to necessarily be as adept at adapting and engaging with these new technologies, right? Cryptocurrency, AI, blockchain, machine learning, all of these things are changing. FinTech are changing so rapidly in today's world that you really do need sort of a source of intel to stay out ahead of them. At a minimum, the other idea, and I was working with a global information technology company just yesterday, where the challenge they had was that because they're so doing oriented, they always have their head down, they're doing their job. The challenge for them is they have to lift their head up, right? They have to look around and scan the horizon, because otherwise you just are so, and this is a good thing, you're so buried in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, you're not thinking about tomorrow. So part of this program is helping you think about tomorrow, but also have the new skills to think past tomorrow, or to one of our faculty framed it like you have to think like a futurist, right? You have to understand how to have the capabilities for today, but also stay out ahead as the world continues to spin and evolve. So the application side of this, so the second concept that we want to talk about is to apply it. Obviously, you have to think it, you have to frame these problems differently, and then you have to apply this new learning for value. And then the third final piece is obviously the success period, right? We want you to succeed in the world. And that is, there's a core set of skills that are becoming increasingly important that I've already started using some of these, as you think of these words around experimentation, or to execute, to innovate in an agile, changing world. One person I was engaging with earlier said that change is the new normal, right? It's, the days of thinking that once this period stops, we will go back to a steady state world might not necessarily be correct, right? Where the world is constantly evolving and changing, and your ability in a technology driven world to be a leader in that world is going to require you to be constantly agile, to be constantly able to succeed. So certainly that's one of the we think that this framework, while basic words, there's a lot there under think, apply, and succeed as we think about the core of the program. I'm going to move fairly quickly through these because I know we have a shortage of time, but just to give you some sense of sort of what the modules would be as you think about module 1 around thinking. It is really thinking about exponential strategies, so understanding kind of the core of growth. thinking about digital transformation, new technologies. As you can see, two really big thought leaders here, Gautam Ahuja and Sumitra Dutta, who are two of the leading thinkers in this space around strategy and digital transformation, and what's happening in the world, and how do you think about sort of the platforms, the models, the business models that will be critical for this. And so the next one is around another way of thinking, around design thinking. So kind of human-centric innovation. Core part of where the world is going is what challenge and what unmet needs are you trying to engage with? How do you make better decisions is a core part of this, using data. And then, of course, getting into, even if you're not in marketing, digital marketing is a core part of how do we drive organizational growth. So digital marketing is a core part of this. As you think about the application phase of this program, this is really where we start getting into, you've gotten the foundation of a way to think about the world. Now it's the application as you start getting into some of these other areas around artificial intelligence, around fintech, blockchain, cryptocurrencies. These are all either ideas that are perhaps buzzwords you're hearing and you want to know more about, or these are core areas of your business that you want to be at the cutting edge of, right? So if you're in fintech in Dubai, or you're in fintech in Singapore, or in India, or anywhere else that, all the wonderful places that people are joining from today, as John mentioned, the fintech landscape is changing so rapidly that getting best practices or innovative ideas is critical. Same thing in all of these areas of technical areas that the world is changing perhaps more rapidly than other areas around how do you apply the content that you're learning. And then finally, the succeed module is really okay, what do you do with that, right? How do you make sure that you're able to spin that experimentation wheel more rapidly? So it is about execution excellence with someone like Vishal Gaur. It's about having a leadership style that adapts to this new world. And then certainly driving innovation with the faculty director, Alan Filipowicz, who has done a lot of work in India and in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia around sort of leadership skills for creating vision, courage. Bringing up those around you is also a core part of this program, because part of this why for you is, sometimes there's an idea that has been talked about what got you here won't get you there, right? So as you think about the classic example of this is as a doctor, right? A doctor moves up in the world because he or she or they are technical experts, they're good doctors. Then all of a sudden they're put in a position where they have to lead a floor of a hospital, or a clinic, or a ward. That is not necessarily because you're a good doctor in terms of success criteria. It's because you're a good leader. The same kind of paradigm, I think, and then some, is happening in the digital world, where you're promoted because you're a good engineer, right? You're a good technical person. You've worked in technology for 15 or 20 years. All of a sudden, you're moving up in an organization that is doing a couple things. The ground is changing under you, so the world is changing. And as you move up in an organization to a more senior leadership role, the capabilities required to be a senior leader have shifted, right? Or are constantly shifting as you're now leading an organization, you're leading a group of people, and they're all going through this uncertainty together. So you have to be able to help translate from a leadership side as you think about the success criteria of that. We then want to give you the opportunity as a capstone project to engage with one of the core areas of Cornell Tech, which is a studio sprint. Which is really getting you to rapidly pull together some of these core ideas in a high energy end of program synopsis, if you will, around sort of how do you pull together those ideas, right? So a lot of it is, as we think about it, there's a ton of stuff happening. There's a ton of stuff you could do. It really is practicing your ability to take it all and actually pull it together as a synthesis exercise. And then ending with graduation. Of course, being an academic organization, graduation is a great way to celebrate the hard work that you would have put in as you think about completing this program from there. Each of the live sessions is, as we mentioned, 2 hours, but there's, as this slide says, there's a lot of part of what we're learning in today's particularly post-pandemic or current pandemic world is that learning is a journey. Learning happens not just in sort of key events, but it happens sort of through multiple methodologies. And so what this does is that there's pre-work, there's work to be done before a session, and then you have the session, and then there's follow-up work to be done. And so really kind of thinking about this as each one of these sort of key drum beats there would be other work going on as you continue to apply this and benefit from it in your current work. Some of the key benefits that John talked about, but also hopefully I've highlighted are here. This is a Cornell University program. It'll be taught by Cornell University faculty that sit across disciplines. Cornell Tech, College of Business, or S.C. Johnson College of Business, our business school, our industrial labor relations school, perhaps many other Cornell University faculty. The certificate is from Cornell University, so perhaps the sort of the end reward is that. During the program, I think some of the things that you'll find is that it's a small cohort size. You'll be, I think, somewhere in the 35 to 40 range of number of people. And so that is a small enough group. And that's always what the sort of the size cap we use when you are trying to have this dynamic network of people getting to know each other. Virtually, we encourage you during, in between sessions to set up peer coaching groups or to have sort of, reach out to some of your colleagues that are in the program together to get to know them better. And certainly doing that on a global basis, it will grow your network on a global basis. The sessions also, because of that size, are small enough to where you can actually engage in dynamic conversations with the faculty and each other, right? So we encourage you to do that as well. And then because of the integration of executive education at Cornell, we're also able to offer a on-demand learning library where there's over 900 electives that you can choose from that to either go deeper or to go parallel on a topic, or there's another area of development, perhaps in leadership development or financial acumen or management, where you say, hey, I really would like to go through a module on that. So you'll have access for the whole year to that on-demand learning library from eCornell, which is the online area of Cornell University that complements these live interactive sessions. So we hope that the recipe for that is, and this is version 2.0 of a program that we constantly are evolving to better serve the global nature of the program. So we hope that those are some of the key elements you'll see as you go through the DBLP. As I mentioned, there's projects that will have peer review, there's faculty reviews, there's studio sprints. So part of this sort of, I mentioned version 2.0, in today's technology-driven world, it is all about iteration. So, and it's all about engagement and getting feedback from in product side, customers and stakeholders. We're trying to encourage you to do that as you think about the project, right? Of a way of saying, I want to try this. I've got a customer insight. I want to test this new idea in my business that maybe takes advantage of an AI system. My colleagues will review it. The faculty of the program will, and then we'll also pull it together in a high-speed way as part of the studio sprint at the end of the program. John mentioned some of the areas that are represented. This is also a slide with some of the brands that people will come to the program from. So you can see that these are some of the leading companies in the world, some of the leading companies in the different geographies that are here. I see TCS there. My background is actually standing on top of the Tata Innovation Center here at Cornell Tech, but obviously a connection to TCS there. And many other global brands that you see here across many different industries. That's the other thing. If you're in financial services at an HSBC, which you see here on the list, you can learn a lot from what's happening in the pharma space, from Takeda, or from in the food and beverage space, from Heineken, or from some of these other knowledge management companies like Accenture, of course. So and many others, right? Of how do you learn from what's happening in one industry to apply it to yours. So I think that network of brands and of people will be very helpful for you as you navigate this. Participant profile, I'm going through these fairly quickly, but I want to make sure I have time for questions and then get you out of here on time. As you can see, the core part is around 16 to 25 years of work experience. Those are people who are in very senior leadership roles, but are wanting to move to even more senior leadership roles in terms of running organizations and running functions. And so it really is that pivot point, right? If you think of some of the research or the work that Ram Charan does around the leadership pipeline, you're at a stage now which is very senior, but you're trying to go up to the even more senior level. And that requires, particularly into how fast the world is changing, if you're 16 to 25 years out from perhaps college or undergraduate, obviously you need to refresh your skills to be, if you're moving into a more senior level leadership role, you're going to be asked to be accountable for a much broader world. And so your capabilities need to be enhanced, which is part of again, going back to our why of the program of what you may do. We've learned a lot, I think, over the number of years of how do you manage learning, how do you gamify it, how do you connect across. So there's different platforms that obviously you'll have access to as you think about the sort of the glue that holds the program together. And at the end, obviously, the Cornell University certificate is a key part of this for social media and for other purposes as well. And I see John coming on the screen, so I will maybe try to answer some questions and answers, or if there's, John, key insights you'd like to express as well.
Thanks so much, Devin. So we have a whole set of questions. Now, I'll just take a few of them if it's okay with you, Devin. The one is from Sati DG from UAE. Would this course seem relevant to someone who has been in the digital ecosystem for 15 years? And he has an overall experience of 19 years.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great question, and thank you for that, and congratulations on that distinguished track record and career. And I would certainly say yes, and I would answer for a couple reasons. One, you will be learning with a group of peers, right? So the target population is really in that band of people who are like yourself, have been very successful, have been in the industry for a number of years, but now need sort of to take that next level, right? To go to the next stage. The other reason I would answer it is because of how fast the world is changing. You really do need to dive deep. One of the leaders or faculty we work with is General George Casey, who was the former chief of staff of the U.S. Army. And he had a great example where he said leaders of today have to be able to zoom in and zoom out with great speed, right? So you've been in the industry for 15, 20 years, great. There are probably areas of blockchain and AI and different technology areas that have shifted since you've been in the industry. So your ability to zoom in, you might want some new content there, but also your ability to think more strategically, to zoom out as you move up in the organization. Again, I said it's sort of the what got you here might not get you there. So you're at a period of your career where this kind of sort of game-changing program and the network of people, the content you develop will be very helpful as you look to take the next step in your career, building on your great track record.
Sure. Thanks, Devin. So we have two types of questions that we're getting. One is, I'll just mention one. One is from Deep Pant, and he's asking, what is my career progression after this course? He's a senior exec, and he comes from the industry. That's one kind of questions that we're getting. Then we have our colleague coming in from UAE. I think so. It's Liju Rajan, who is asking, hey, Liju and Priya Chaudhary and Prashant Jha, they're asking these questions saying they do not come in from the digital industry. Mm-hmm. How will this course be relevant to them? So two ends of the spectrum, how do we respond to that?
Yeah, great questions from both of you. And I think that we've designed the program to try to go both ways, right? There's a notion that I think we've talked about previously where leaders of tomorrow have to be fluent in two different languages, right? One is that language of engineering and technology. So if you're coming in that track, you do speak more of that language. So this program might help you more speak the language of business and leadership at a more senior level, right? So you know some of the more technical sides, though obviously that world is changing very rapidly, but it's your ability to be a more strategic thinker, to move up in the organization from, say a senior director or an executive level role to even more senior, right? As you try to get into the C-suite or become a CEO, right? Those different mindsets and those different capabilities are required. If you're not from the sort of the digital technology space, maybe your language is more going the other way, right? So you do speak very well the language of business, of marketing, of finance, but what you're interested in is getting more of the content in some of these more technical areas of what is specific to an increasingly digital, changing, technology-driven world, right? So you need to speak more of the language of engineering and technology. So that's really where, and the nice thing is the content helps you blend that, but also the network of people in the program. So if you think of both of those people who asked the question, if both of those are part of the same program, what an interesting conversation those two people could have as you think about building and learning from each other. So we think that that's how we've tried to design the program, is to help the blend of people, but also coming from both sides and really anywhere you fall on that spectrum.
Yeah, thanks so much, Devin. I just want to mention that with this response, we think we have answered the questions for Rakesh Roshan, Sunny Masan, Karan Kukreja, Deep, Satyajiji, also for Liju Rajan and Priya Chaudhary. Abhishek Pandey has a completely different question. He asks us if you could provide clarity on the track related to AI and blockchain. Will they be basics, or are we focusing on case studies?
I think on AI and blockchain, two objectives for those sessions.
Yep.
One is to go more strategic, right? So what kind of business models or what kind of organizations are game changing the world in their work in the AI and blockchain space? Our assumption, and though that being said, the session will, for people who've not had any exposure to blockchain or AI, would be able to sort of say, here's some of the basics. But I think at this level, particularly for people who are sort of in that 16 to 25 year, it really is, how will this change my industry, right? How will this change my business model? And help you think about, if you're not currently working in that space, how might you think about that, all the way up to, our company is in that industry. What are the next latest and greatest? So I think given who we think would be part of the program and the faculty, it would be more strategic. If there are electives that go deeper in the kind of the fundamentals of AI and blockchain as part of the on-demand library, but the live session would really be, what's happening now, what do we think is going to happen in the future, and how do you bridge that gap?
Thanks so much, Devin. We have questions. I think so. We have questions from Tanmay, Vaidya, Anand Srivastav. If it's okay with you folks, let us take this offline, and we will. Devin has addressed most of these questions. We have just breached our time, so let us get back to you. Before we say goodbye, just wanted to mention that we have a deadline on 11th December. My colleagues from XCD, we will be happy to take any more questions from you. We look forward to staying in touch. Devin, thanks so much for taking the time, and wishing you a good weekend.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you all to those of you who joined. I know it's probably getting into your evening, so particularly in Southeast Asia and Singapore as well. But thank you so much for your interest. Really enjoyed having a chance to connect with you this morning or this evening for you. Really excited about this global program in partnership with XCD, and looking forward to perhaps seeing you as part of the program and learning from you as well as you take part in this Cornell University program.
Thanks so much, Devin. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.